The coffee maker was leaking. That's all it took, one short circuit, one scream, and a living room lit by sudden fire. Before the believers even opens its mouth, it offers a domestic death so cruel it feels personal. And it was. What unfolds afterward isn't just a psychological thriller wrapped in religious trappings. It's a descent into a world where belief isn't private, it's weaponized. Voodoo, Santeria, and blood rituals aren't just background textures. They are the film's bloodstream. Released in 1987, The Believers masquerades as a standard supernatural procedural, but what it reveals is far more unsettling, a film that bleeds into real-world tragedies. It wasn't fiction for everyone. The production became a magnet for inexplicable accidents, actor breakdowns, and terrifying parallels to an actual case file in New York City, one involving missing children and ritual sacrifice. Martin Sheen, the film's anchor, nearly broke under the weight of what he called spiritual interference. He wasn't alone. The deeper the crew sank into rituals that mirrored real practices, the harder it became to draw the line between performance and possession. Even the NYPD took notice, questioning how a scriptwriter could know so much about an open investigation. And perhaps the most disturbing detail, the film never tries to explain itself. It doesn't clarify what's real and what's hysteria. It doesn't resolve the fear. It just leaves it there quietly humming beneath the surface, like a curse left unfinished. These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about The Believers, 1987. A film that might have known too much and said too little. Fact has shown. A death so graphic, they were told to pull back. The film opens with a death so abrupt, it punches through the screen, a mother electrocuted in front of her child. Originally, it was meant to be even more disturbing. In the first cut, the wife's body convulsed longer, her hands clutched the espresso machine, the arcs of electricity dancing in prolonged flashes. Her skin was meant to blister, her eyes roll back not once, but twice. But when early test audiences gasped, not at the shock, but at the length of it, producers stepped in. They claimed it made the film feel too real, too early. The death was trimmed, but Martin Sheen later admitted something else. During the shoot, the set lights kept short-circuiting. On the third day filming the death scene, the same circuit breaker blew twice. An on-set electrician reportedly said, "This place doesn't want this shot." The death that launched the film was based on a real case involving a faulty countertop appliance and a barefoot victim. That case, too, ended in flames. And in both cases, it wasn't the electrocution that disturbed people most. It was how calm the room felt afterward. Fact #2. The child actor refused to reenact the scene. After filming the traumatic electrocution scene, young actor Harley Cross was asked to redo his reaction closer, more anguished. But he refused. Cross had already performed a wide-eyed scream during the original take, clutching a prop toy in terror. But when director John Schlesinger requested a tighter close-up, Cross grew pale and silent. On set, he whispered, "I don't want to see her again." The her wasn't his on-screen mother, it was the stunt double lying on the kitchen floor. The crew, thinking it was nerves, tried to coax him, but later that day, Cross told a grip. She blinked. No one else saw it. The double had been still for 15 minutes. Martin Sheen, observing the exchange, insisted they move on. "We've got it," he said. "We don't need to force anything here." The next day, the footage for the second angle had been exposed, ruined in processing. They never got the reshoot. The final cut features Harley's original reaction, not because it was best, but because it was the only one the film would allow. Fact #3. The nightmare that sent Martin Sheen to the hospital. 3 nights. That's how long Martin Sheen endured the same nightmare before being rushed to the hospital. According to interviews, Sheen suffered from extreme sleep deprivation during the first week of filming in New York. He reportedly described waking up in paralysis, pinned to the bed, hearing whispers in a language he couldn't place. He said it wasn't just fear, it was present. The third night, he collapsed during rehearsal. Doctors blamed exhaustion, but Sheen was convinced it was something else. He called it psychic intrusion. His hotel room was blessed the next morning by a local priest not arranged by the studio, but by a grip who had worked on another horror film years earlier. Production paused for 24 hours. Sheen returned with a crucifix tucked under his collar, something he wore in every scene after, even when it wasn't visible. Curiously, that crucifix never appeared on camera. Somehow, in every frame where it should have glinted from beneath his shirt, the angle missed it, and maybe that was the point. It wasn't there for the audience. It was there to keep the film from taking something back with it. Fact #4. The real case that no one was supposed to know. When The Believers was being filmed, rumors spread that its script mirrored a real, unsolved investigation involving missing children in New York. At first, the filmmakers brushed it off coincidence, they said. But then the police showed up. During week 2 of production, an NYPD detective visited the set with a plain request. "Where did your writer get this story?" Several scenes, including a sacrificial ritual involving a young boy, bore uncanny resemblance to a closed-door case file from 1984. That file was sealed. Director John Schlesinger insisted the script was based on publicly available myths. But the officer reportedly responded, "That's not a myth. That happened on 124th Street. What made things worse?" One of the extras in the ritual scene had been a background witness in that very case. He had never told the casting director his full history. Some on set began to believe the film wasn't inspired by real events, it had summoned them. Fact #5. The cult symbol that appeared before the cameras rolled. One of the eeriest moments of the production happened not during a take, but before it. While setting up the apartment scene where Sheen's character first notices strange markings, a props assistant found something carved beneath a windowsill, a circle with 7 slashes through it. It wasn't part of the set design. The apartment had been rented only days before. The crew photographed it and planned to paint over the mark before filming, but when the set decorator returned from lunch, the symbol was gone. Not painted, scraped away. No one claimed responsibility. No one admitted touching it. Later that week, the same symbol appeared again, this time burned faintly into the bottom of a wooden prop used in a ritual scene. The art department replaced the prop, but the footage they shot with it was strangely out of focus, despite a perfectly working camera. Fact #6. The background actor who vanished after one scene. In a scene set inside a Harlem tenement, Sheen's character confronts a woman connected to the cult. The background is filled with silent onlookers, extras hired locally. One of them, a tall man in a brown overcoat, stood out, not because of his look, but because he refused makeup, direction, or payment. When asked to sign a release form, he declined. "I'm already in," he said. The production assistant in charge of extras flagged it, but they were behind schedule and kept rolling. The man appeared in only one take, blurry in the background, near the doorway. When the footage was reviewed days later, he wasn't there. The doorway was empty. And yet, in behind-the-scenes stills taken during the scene, he's clearly visible, standing, watching, unsmiling. He never returned to the set. His name was never recorded, and in post-production, that one take had to be cut not because of the man, but because every sound in the room distorted into static when he was in frame. Fact #7. The ritual that was too accurate for comfort. One of the film's most disturbing sequences features a ritual involving live animals, blood offerings, and rhythmic chanting. It was designed as a blend of voodoo and Santeria, but what made the crew nervous wasn't how it looked. It was how accurate it sounded. To create authenticity, the production hired a religious consultant, a man with alleged ties to actual Santeria communities in the Bronx. But he later admitted that the incantations used weren't simulated, they were real. "They're protection spells," he claimed. "You'll need them." The consultant later vanished from the project. His phone number went dead. His address on file was fake. Some crew members believed they had invited something too specific into the production. A boom mic fell unexpectedly during the first take. A gaffer was hospitalized after cutting his palm during setup on a prop blade that wasn't supposed to be sharp. And when they tried to re-record the chants in post-production, every session ended with corrupted audio. Every single one. Fact #8. The makeup artist who refused to touch the pig's blood. During a climactic ritual scene, gallons of blood were poured onto the ground. The script originally called for synthetic blood, but a producer insisted on using pig's blood from a local butcher for authentic texture. When the head makeup artist found out, she walked off set. She claimed the decision was not only unsafe but sacrilegious. "You don't pour that on concrete," she said. "You pour it on intention." An assistant took over and followed the revised plan. But later that night, the blood wouldn't dry. It soaked into the set's wooden platform and left a persistent odor, one that lingered for 3 weeks. Actors began complaining of nausea. 2 refused to do retakes on that stage. Eventually, the platform was dismantled and burned behind the studio warehouse. Even then, the smell returned just faintly every time the rain came. Fact #9. Martin Sheen's son had a fever during the final scene shoot. While shooting the climactic confrontation where Sheen's character interrupts a child sacrifice, Martin Sheen received a call from his family. His real-life son had developed a sudden, unexplained fever. The timing was eerie. In the scene, Sheen fights to save his on-screen son from being killed in a ritual. And at that exact moment, his real son was burning with fever, calling out deliriously about someone at the window. Sheen became visibly shaken. The director offered to pause production, but Sheen insisted on finishing the take. "Let's just get through this," he said. That night, he flew home. His son's fever broke the next morning. No diagnosis was ever given. The scene they shot that day? It's the version that appears in the final cut, uninterrupted, raw, emotionally frayed. And when Sheen watched it back later, he said, "I don't remember acting. I just remember surviving." Fact Hasson 0. The scene that required a real priest off camera. In one of the film's most intense sequences, Sheen's character infiltrates a hidden altar chamber where he discovers evidence of previous sacrifices. The atmosphere on set during this scene was so unsettling that a priest was brought in not for the characters, but for the crew. The set, located in a decommissioned subway terminal, had been dressed with bones, ash, and ritual cloths. But the odor wasn't artificial. It came from a barrel of organic matter used as visual texture, sourced from a local taxidermist. Within hours of setup, a makeup assistant fainted. Another crew member vomited. The cinematographer began experiencing nosebleeds. A local production manager, who also happened to be Catholic, called in a friend, a retired priest. He arrived quietly, walked the set, and offered a short blessing. Afterward, the nausea stopped. No one ever mentioned it in the production notes. It wasn't an official act. But when they reviewed the footage from that day, the lights seemed warmer. The shadows weren't as long, as if something had let go. Fact Hasson. They tried to burn the dummy. It came back. For the scene involving a symbolic burning of a child-shaped effigy, the props team constructed a life-size dummy from wax, hair, and cloth, designed to blacken and melt on camera. But the first test didn't go as planned. The dummy wouldn't burn. Despite accelerants, flames sputtered out. They tried again. Same result. The fire danced around the figure but refused to catch. Finally, they switched materials and succeeded capturing the eerie melting scene. But when they returned to the storage lot days later to dispose of the original dummy, it was gone. No one had moved it. No records showed it was thrown out. 2 days later, the same effigy was found slumped against a different storage trailer, half melted, half intact. They burned it again. This time, it lit quickly, almost too quickly. The fire consumed it silently. No smoke, no smell, just a shape disappearing into black. Fact Hasson 2. The line the studio tried to remove. There's a line spoken during the film's climax, uttered by the cult leader just before the final sacrifice attempt. Belief is not faith. It's control. It lasted less than 3 seconds, but it became a sticking point with the studio. Test audiences reportedly reacted with discomfort not because of delivery, but because of implication. Executives feared the line would be seen as too political, too confrontational. It cut too close to broader systems of power and manipulation. Schlesinger refused to cut it. He argued it was the spine of the entire film. Without that line, the cult is just spectacle. With it, they're a metaphor. After back and forths, the studio relented, but quietly ensured it was removed from international trailers and dubbed versions. Today, that line appears in only the original theatrical and home video release. Most streaming copies omit it, which makes one wonder, was it the content that disturbed them, or the fact that it might be true? Fact Hasson 3. The child wasn't acting. He believed it was real. In the film's climax, Sheen's on-screen son is brought into a ceremonial space, surrounded by chanting cultists and symbols drawn in blood. His fear in that scene is palpable, but what many don't know is that the young actor, Harley Cross, wasn't pretending. Cross later revealed in a podcast that no one fully explained the scene to him. "I didn't know it was fake blood," he said. "I thought they were actually going to hurt me. I trusted Martin." What made it worse? The actors playing cultists stayed in character between takes, some whispering in tongues, others wearing robes for hours. The intensity was meant to create atmosphere. Instead, it created confusion. Cross started crying uncontrollably between takes, not because of the scene, but because one of the extras kept calling him by his real name during the ritual. Sheen eventually stopped filming and took him aside. Production paused for half a day. The shot they used in the final cut, his trembling silence, wasn't performance, it was belief. The film got exactly what it needed, and maybe more. Fact Hasson 4. The deleted ending that was too bleak to survive. Originally, the believers had a different ending. Instead of escaping with his son, Sheen's character was supposed to wake up in a hospital alone. The implication: everything had gone wrong. The ritual had succeeded. In this version, a nurse with a strange symbol tattooed behind her ear would tell him, You saved him, but the camera would pan to reveal that his son's hospital bracelet bore a different name. The studio called it too cynical. Audiences would leave confused, not satisfied. John Schlesinger fought for the ending, saying it honored the film's theme that the illusion of safety is the most dangerous belief of all. The scene was shot, edited, scored, then shelved. The original negatives were reportedly misplaced during a vault transfer in 1990. To this day, fans of the film speculate that the real ending still exists, just not for public eyes. And in the version we got, the boy is safe, or at least, that's what they want us to think. Fact Hasson 5. He wasn't acting, and neither was the puppet. During a brief moment in the final ritual scene, a carved wooden figure representing a deity is shown beside the child. It's only on screen for 5 seconds, but that puppet caused so much unease on set, it was banned from future shots. Created by an artisan from Haiti, the figure had glass eyes, human hair, and movable joints. When the crew arrived one morning, the puppet was found seated upright in a director's chair, arms crossed, facing the altar. No one claimed responsibility. Later that day, an actor refused to enter the room. "It blinked," he said. The figure had no movable eyelids. Martin Sheen, visibly shaken, demanded it be removed. The props team complied, but the next morning it was back, this time lying flat in the altar position. They locked it in a crate for the rest of production. No one spoke of it again. And when someone tried to donate it to a museum years later, the institution declined, writing, "We don't accept objects believed to be active." Fact #Onexus. This scene was cut because the puppet kept talking. There was one scene involving the carved deity from the ritual sequence that never made it to the final cut. It was supposed to be silent, a simple close-up as the cult leader prays. But every time they filmed it, the sound engineer picked up a low murmur in the background. At first, they thought it was ambient noise. Then it happened again. Same timing, same tone. Like a whisper layered under the chants. They isolated the audio. The waveform showed something strange. A human voice speaking a phrase in Haitian Creole. No actors were speaking at the time. No one on set spoke the language. They brought in a translator. The phrase, "The offering is not enough." The director cut the scene immediately. The puppet was locked away, and the reel was left unmarked in the editing archive. When they checked the footage months later, the audio was clean, no whisper, no waveform distortion. But the editor swore it had been there, and so did the translator, who never returned a second call. Fact Hasson 7. The composer quit after hearing the playback. Composer J. Peter Robinson had already written several cues for the Believers. Tense strings, low percussion, moody atmosphere. But after scoring one of the final ritual sequences, he walked out of the mixing room and didn't return for 2 days. He claimed the playback wasn't his composition. He heard what sounded like a woman humming over the final bars, out of sync with the music. At first, he assumed it was bleed from another studio, but the sound technician froze. The track had no secondary channel, no overlay. They played it back. This time, nothing. But Robinson swore that he hadn't imagined it. It was like someone humming to calm themselves. Not part of the scene, just near it. He agreed to finish the score under one condition. The studio would replace the reel for that scene with a new one without the original music stem. They did. The final cut uses alternate music, but some international VHS editions still contain the old track. And in those versions, if you listen carefully, the humming is still there. Fact #8. The editor who wouldn't work alone anymore. Post-production editor Sheila Stokes was in charge of the film's continuity passes, checking for glitches, reshoots, audio sync. She was known for working solo, often overnight, but after 3 weeks editing The Believers, she refused to enter the studio without someone else present. In her notes, she wrote, "Timeline glitches unexplained. Footage jumps 3 frames forward, then restores. Happens only on rituals." Multiple times, she described scenes subtly shifting. One child's eyes appeared open in a frame, then closed in the next, without a cut. One background actor marked clearly in her shot log was missing entirely in the assembled sequence. No one else could replicate the glitches. When another editor checked her timeline, everything was normal. Stokes eventually requested a reassignment. She cited stress, but before she left, she handed the director a single hard copy frame, a close-up from the final ritual. It showed a woman in the shadows. No one recognized her. She wasn't cast. She wasn't credited. And when they tried to reprint the frame, the file corrupted permanently. Fact #9. The audience member who left a note and disappeared. During an early preview screening in Los Angeles, a woman left the theater halfway through the film. Nothing unusual until ushers found a folded note on her seat. It was handwritten, on torn notebook paper. One sentence, "Stop showing them how it's done." Security searched for her, but she had paid in cash and left no name. CCTV footage showed her entering, sitting down, but never exiting. The footage later disappeared, file corrupted, per the venue. Producers initially thought it was a hoax, but that same night, 2 other attendees reportedly fainted during the ritual scene. One of them woke up muttering in Spanish, repeating a phrase the sound team later matched to the film's unused audio track. The incident was never officially reported, but the note became something of a legend. It still sits framed in a locked cabinet at the studio's archive office. No one opens it anymore. Not since the last assistant who touched it claimed it burned cold. Fact #20. The death that made everyone stop talking about the film. 2 months after The Believers premiered, a crew member and assistant location scout was found dead in his apartment. No foul play, no trauma, just collapsed beside a pile of location permits, including one for the now demolished Harlem building used in the cult scenes. The coroner cited cardiac arrest, but friends claimed he'd been talking about getting calls at night, hearing voices that spoke like they were still on set. One of his last messages to a friend, "I don't think we filmed it. I think we repeated it." The studio declined to comment. The incident was quietly scrubbed from press tours. Even Martin Sheen, once open about his experiences, refused to mention the film in interviews for nearly a decade. The death wasn't the first eerie coincidence, but it was the last straw for many. Cast and crew moved on, and The Believers was never revisited. No remakes, no reboots, no extended editions. Because when you make a film about belief, you invite questions. But this film didn't invite anything. It opened something, and then left it unfinished. Bonus fact: the one frame that shouldn't exist. Years after The Believers had faded into cult obscurity, a fan-made restoration project uncovered something strange. A single frame buried in a reel from an original 35mm print showed a black and white image of a goat skull placed atop a child's crib. It didn't belong to any known scene. No actor was credited. No script draft contained the image. The team assumed it was a misprint, possibly spliced from another film. But when they reversed the image and enhanced the contrast, faint words appeared etched on the skull. "You watched." Experts analyzed the reel. There were no splice marks, no signs of tampering. That frame had been part of the original print, inserted at 1/24 of a second, barely visible, unconscious. The discovery never made headlines, but it did circulate online among horror archivists, many of whom refused to screen the film again after seeing the still. The studio declined to comment. The frame was removed from future digital transfers. Only a few bootleg copies remain. Whispers passed around the internet like a curse no one wants to name. So the question isn't whether the image was real. The question is, who put it there and why? You've heard the stories rituals gone too far, scenes that refuse to die, and truths buried inside frames no one remembers filming. But now it's your turn. Which fact made you question what was real and what was just cinema? And do you think The Believers was simply a film or something closer to documentation? Tell us in the comments, and let us know which forgotten film you want us to dig into next.